The web is overflowing with all kinds of rumors about this year's Apple's flagships right now. That's why I have gathered the most interesting stuff, and now I'm going to tell you about everything in more detail. Hi, it's OZN, and before I start, I suggest you subscribe to my channel and ring the bell. Let's discuss the news. Despite the iPhone 12 mini's reportedly poor sales, Apple released an iPhone 13 mini alongside the other iPhone 13 models last fall. But the mini could be toast after that, as the company will reportedly shake up the iPhone 14 lineup for 2022. There could be a larger iPhone 14 Plus or Max to go along with the regular 6.1-inch iPhone 14. So there would be two regular size phones and two larger screen iPhone 14 models. This was further backed up by leaker Jon Prosser, who claimed the iPhone 14 Max will be the replacement for mini phone, offering a 6.7-inch display only without coming with a lot of pro features and thus a hefty price tag. Given the appetite for larger phones, a big yet more affordable iPhone could be just the thing for Apple fans. According to Jon Prosser in his front page tech video, the iPhone 14 will look like an iPhone 12 crossed with an iPhone 4, in that it will stick with flat edges. But those edges could include a mute button and group of rounded buttons for volume central, harking back to the iPhone 4. Supposedly the sides of the iPhone 14 could be made out of titanium, which could make it tougher and stronger than the previous iPhones, whereas the back would retain the glass finish, but seemingly with a satin-like finish. Another design change potentially in the cards for the iPhone 14 is that trio of rear cameras will no longer protrude from the iPhone's rear, but it sit flush with the back. Given advancement in a camera sensor technology and lens manufacturing, this could be a possibility. But given some schematics that show the iPhone 14 Pro models with the raised camera array being even bigger on the iPhone 14 Pro, and Min Chi Kuo claiming that a larger module is needed to house a 48-megapixel camera, it doesn't look likely the standard iPhone 14 will get a set of cameras flush with its rear panel. A good few rumors have the iPhone 14 tipped to finally kill the display notch. But as it stands, it's now looking like only the iPhone 14 Pro will be notchless, opting for a combination of a single circular camera cutout and a pill-shaped cutout alongside it to hold the Face ID sensors. However, the standard iPhone 14 is now not expected to kill the notch, with tipsters suggesting the iPhone range as whole will be notchless in 2023. A leaker on Weibo has also posted alleged schematics for the iPhone 14 Pro showing the Face ID cutout next to the front-facing camera. It seems divisive to me, but this is early stages, and a new suite of renders for the iPhone 14 Pro gives us another impression of what a post-notch iPhone could look like. However, it's not looking like that this design will find its way over the standard iPhone 14. That could be a little disappointing, as normal iPhones have had to endure with a notch for 4 generations now. As for other design changes, renders thus far have the iPhone 14 range to ditch the camera module in favor of a design that seems the camera integrated into the chassis like older smartphones used to have, as well as Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra. Similar to the Pro, my smart price also obtained CAD renders of the regular iPhone 14. I assume that the iPhone 14 Max will also feature the same design in a body with a 6.7-inch display. As you can see, these renders don't look a whole different than the iPhone 13 we have now. The notch is still slimmer and the rear cameras are stacked diagonally. In fact, it makes me wonder what's truly going to be different about the iPhone 14. Leaker Max Weinbach, who has a historical solid record, posted alleged schematics for the iPhone 14 Pro and iPhone 14 Pro Max. Both show a 0.2mm thicker phone with a larger camera bump. Interestingly enough, the schematics show that the iPhone 14 Pro and iPhone 14 Pro Max won't differ too much in height and width with their predecessors. These schematics also show the new hole punch pill-shaped cutouts. I'm expecting a shake-up in the iPhone 14 range, as we reportedly see a standard iPhone 14 and iPhone 14 Pro come with a 6.1-inch display, and a possible iPhone 14 Plus and iPhone 14 Pro Max to sport a 6.7-inch display. So no more 5.4-inch mini. A leak from Shadow Leak claims that the iPhone 14 will have a 6.08-inch display, rounded up to 6.1 inches, and the iPhone 14 Max will have a 6.68-inch panel, rounded up to 6.7 11 inches. That's the same as the iPhone 13 and iPhone 13 Pro Max. Given the iPhone 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max have 120Hz refresh rate display, it would be great to see all iPhone 14 models have such a screen, likely using an LTPO panel or an evolution of that display tech. A new supply chain rumor has the iPhone 14 Max, potentially called the iPhone 14 Plus, tipped to get a 120Hz refresh rate display. LG will apparently be the screen maker in this case, though it's as yet unclear whether the standard iPhone 14 will get a higher refresh rate or stick to 60Hz. One report from the LX says that at least one iPhone 14 model will sport an LTPS display, which means a 60Hz panel could be sticking around. Subsequent supply chain reports have only reinforced the idea that the standard iPhone 14 may miss out on a fast refreshing display. Yet another slightly different rumor suggests the iPhone 14 and 14 Max could have 90Hz refresh rates. This would be an improvement over the iPhone 13 and 13 mini, but wouldn't tread on the toes of the Pro model's faster displays. An always-on display would also seem logical for the iPhone 14, given it was tipped for the iPhone 13 but never made it into the latest iPhone. One of the most significant changes for the iPhone 14 over its predecessors is tipped to be the return of TouchID. Only rather than get integrated into a power button, it will supposedly be embedded under the iPhone 14's display, much like a lot of fingerprint sensors on the best Android phones. According to a recent leak, the iPhone 14 Pro models will come with an under-display take of TouchID. But the leaker was careful to say that this take on TouchID is still being tested and it's unclear if we will end up seeing it. A separate leak from Panda is Bolt on Weibo in a since deleted post says that the iPhone 14 actually won't have an display Touch ID, so the jury is out on how likely under display Touch ID on the iPhone 14 will be. And yet another rumor has gone further still. Leaks Apple Pro says that sources have told him that not only will Touch ID be missing from iPhone 14, but that it has been dropped from Apple's plans entirely. Instead, he says Apple is working on an under-screen solution for Face ID, though he claims this won't be available until 2023, which would presumably mean the iPhone 15. I'm starting to hear some more about the iPhone 14 cameras, and the rumors are getting pretty interesting. One report from Apple analyst Minchi Kuo tips a 48-megapixel main sensor for the iPhone 14 Pro models, which would be a big jump from the 12-megapixel camera on the iPhone 13. TrendForce, a Taiwanese research firm, backs up the 48-megapixel main camera rumor, suggesting that megapixels matter once more to Apple, at least when it comes to the company's Pro models. However, this rumor has been changed by another tipster, who claims the iPhone 14 Pro and that the iPhone 14 range won't get 48-megapixel camera. Instead, the tipster claims Apple will stick with the same 12-megapixel sensor found in the iPhone 13 range for the main camera. Nevertheless, a bigger main sensor will be welcome, but I am particularly interested in an improved telephoto lens, as the iPhone lags behind the likes of the Samsung Galaxy S21. In fact, it would be rather neat if Apple drew inspiration from the Galaxy S21 Ultra and opted for a secondary telephoto camera with something like 10x optical zoom. One Apple patent points to Apple working on a periscope-style zoom camera, which could make its way to the iPhone 14, or at least the Pro models. However, Minchi Kuo now says the periscope camera won't appear until the iPhone 15 in 2023. So far, we have only tidbits of info on the potential iPhone 14 specs. I'm rather confident that 2020's iPhone will make use of an A-series chip designed by Apple. Likely to be the A16, the chip will almost certainly offer a notable boost in both processor and graphics performance over the A15 Bionic tipped for the iPhone 13. The iPhone 14 is tipped to feature a 4nm chip from TSMC, which would be even smaller and more efficient than the 5nm A15 Bionic slated for the iPhone 13. However, a recent report claims that TSMC is having a problem introducing the smaller chips, which means the iPhone 14 could stick with 5nm chipset. If so, it will be the first time an iPhone's gone 3 years with the same size system on chip. Analyst Minchi Kuo claims that Apple may decide to give only the iPhone 14 Pro and iPhone 14 Pro Max the new A16 Bionic chip, and the regular iPhone 14 and iPhone 14 Max would be powered by the current A15 A16 Bionic. That would be a big surprise, but the A15 will likely remain the fastest chip in a phone for some time. Another tipster, Leaks Apple Pro, has further claimed that the iPhone 14 will use an A15 Bionic rather than upgraded silicon. Apple is seriously considering using the A15 in the non-Pro iPhone later this year. However, the Cupertino-based company plans to call it the A16 chip. The plot has thickened here, with another report claiming the iPhone 14 would use the version of the A15 Bionic chipset that powers this year's iPhone 13 Pro models. The chip is equipped with 6 GB of RAM, whereas the iPhone 13 and iPhone 13 mini use 4 GB of RAM according to teardowns. So that would be an upgrade of sort, but perhaps not the one we would expect. Again, take this with the appropriate dose of skepticism. Kuo also says that all 4 iPhone 14 models will have 6 GB of RAM, a boost from 4 GB of the iPhone 13 and 13 mini. However, the base models would use LPDDR4X RAM, like the current iPhone 13 range, while the Pro models will allegedly get faster and more efficient LPDDR5 RAM. Analyst Jeff Poo has also predicted that all 4 iPhone 14 models will come with 6 GB of RAM. On the storage side, I'd expect Apple to continue with the options it has for the iPhone 13 range, which started at 120x gigs and go up to 1 TB for the Pro models. Apple could also launch an eSIM-only variant of the iPhone 14, according to claims by Analysts of Global Date. A recurring rumor around the iPhone 14 is that it will drop the Lightning port and go for USB-C connectivity instead. But leaker John Prosser has expressed doubts on this being the case. But other leakers have touted the USB-C rumor, noting that the iPhone 14 Pro will come with USB-C. With the European Union looking to force device makers to adopt standardized charging and cables by 2024, the days of the Lightning port could be numbered. Apple has a big European presence after all. But the jury is out on whether Apple will make such a move in time for the iPhone 14. I'd welcome USB-C connectivity, given Apple's iPads and MacBooks have adopted this port. Some of us even think USB-C is a must-have feature for the iPhone 14. Assuming Apple sticks to the pattern it's used for the better part of a decade, the iPhone 14 will launch with a new version of Apple's iOS software when it arrives in the fall. Since we are currently on iOS 15, the next version is all but certain to be iOS 16. I haven't heard anything about Apple's planned software updates for iOS 16, and I'm unlikely to until the company's annual developer conference, which is normally held in June. I've heard no hint on a potential release date for the iPhone 14, but going by previous Apple iPhone launch events, I'd expect to see the iPhone 14 makes its debut in September 22. According to the latest rumors, the iPhone 14 has entered into trial production. That's an important step in the phone's manufacturing process, and Chinese site UDN claims that Apple orders a similar trial each February. The idea is to finalize a device design, calibrate testing machines for quality assurance, and identify any issues with the manufacturing process. As for a price, it's also difficult to predict, but I suspect the iPhone 14 will match the price of the iPhone 13, which starts at $799 for the regular iPhone 13 and $999 for the iPhone 13 Pro. However, there could be no iPhone 14 mini at all, so I'd expect a larger 6.7-inch iPhone 14 Max to cost $899. From there, the iPhone 14 Pro costs $999 and the iPhone 14 Pro Max cost $1,099 or more. So, do you plan to upgrade to the new iPhone 14 this year? And if so, which model do you find the most interesting? Your answers, as always, you can leave in the comment section below. I will definitely read everything, and I will answer the most interesting comments and give hearts from the channel. If this video seems interesting to you, do not forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel and ring the bell. You were watching OZN, and I'll see you guys in the next one.